It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice right here, right now. My name is Michael Evans, and I will be your host this morning. Thank gosh, it's Friday. Well, we've got some controversy out there this morning on the new Al, not Cliven, Bundy. We're going to talk about that because it is all the news that is out there right now. The Republicans and the conservative folks that were supporting Bundy are running away from him at an alarming and stunning rate. I believe that if most people were to actually hear his comments in full, they would recognize that there is a context associated with them that has not been given to you, and that the Media Matters organization and of course the Ministry of Propaganda, and I include Fox News in that, they ran with the with the documentation that was supported or provided by Media Matters versus the actual full comments. Now, I am not going to support and encourage and or exonerate Cliven, henceforth known as Al Bundy, because he was inarticulate. And here's my problem with what Cliven did. It's not the fact that he's got. It's not the fact that he made some statements that were taken out of context. It's not the fact that he's not a polished speaker. What bothers me about what Cliven Bundy has done is that he was more interested in making sure that he was the center of attention here than he was in making sure that the issue was the center of attention. See, I don't care what the guy thinks on a personal level. We have this thing called free speech. And I'm not even sure, after I've heard and I've listened to the unedited comments, and I'm going to play them for you in just a moment, because we have this thing called free speech. And his words were clearly inarticulate. And they have set the clock back on this entire issue significantly. Only in public perception, but it matters. And words matter. If they didn't matter, then you have to question yourself about your reaction to Hillary's words when she was talking about Benghazi. It does matter. The problem here is that the standoff has never been about Bundy. But you see, he's opened his mouth and he spewed some verbal diarrhea, and he gave the left and the enemy all the fodder that they need to make the issue about him and not about federal abuse of power and authority. The issue is the moral high ground. And Cliven, who was not the main character, has now made himself the main character and single-handedly given up our moral high ground. And quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pissed. I'll tell you why I am. Because, you see, Cliven had an opportunity here to do something good with what's transpired. But in order to accomplish that, somebody had to inform him, and he had to be cognizant of the fact that he's not an articulate speaker, that he's not capable of being able to express verbally and articulately what he thinks. And, not understanding, because he doesn't have experience in how the media can take your words and bend them and twist them, he got caught. He got caught in a game bigger than himself. The problem is that Cliven like all human beings, allowed the power of his position to get in the way of what was right. Instead of playing the quiet, silent man, he wanted to keep this momentum moving. He was getting a little drunk on the Kool-Aid. And I don't mean that about his comment. I mean about his whole persona here. That was a mistake. And we should recognize it, acknowledge it, and admit it when it's true. That's called critical thinking. The truth of the matter is, there was absolutely no reason for Cliven to hold a daily press conference in front of 1 or 2 or 3 media people. And frankly, some of the folks there should have been cognizant enough to say, Cliven, this is probably not a good idea, because all it's going to take is one misstep in a room full of landmines, and you can set back the movement by a half a dozen years. We're going to play the actual clip. I want you to hear it in its entirety. And I want you to understand, towards the end, the part that they cut out was how he's talking about Mexican immigrants who come over the border. And, of course, being right in Nevada, he's got an enormous influence of immigrants that come over the border, probably both legal and illegal. And he talks about how their families are far tighter knit than our families, that they work harder than we do. And if you don't like that, then again, I challenge you to think critically and be willing to admit sometimes that we can be wrong. And in this case, I agree with him. Our family units are falling apart. Everybody's worried about running around and getting high in Colorado and Washington instead of buckling down and fixing the country. Everybody's trying to run around figuring out, what can I get for free? All right, our second, third, and fourth topics are going to be Hillary regrets Benghazi, right on cue for 2016. I'm sorry, I had to launch into that one early this morning because this one's bothering me. Our third segment, John Boehner hypocritically mocks Patriots about immigration. Really? I've got a personal message for John. And our fourth topic, Eric Holder must be dishonorably discharged. All right, let's jump into this because we've got a few minutes, and I want you to hear 2 different clips I'm going to play you. One is Cliven Bundy, and this is the unedited version of what he had to say. And they clipped out the beginning and they clipped out the end. And I want you to hear, and it's very difficult to hear because it was recorded, with a pretty, it was recorded in the field. And, he's standing here underneath a tree, and it wasn't, he didn't have a microphone in his face because, well, of course, the mainstream Ministry of Propaganda has all split now, right? So it's all alternative media folks. And, most of us are lucky if we can scrape together enough pennies to get out there or to, buy a spare battery, not be able to drive out there in a satellite-fed truck that cost $1.6 million, right? But of course, I don't even want to get into it. I'm so disgusted. 6 companies run everything you see and hear and think, and all of them jumped on the bandwagon here, took this edited piece and ran with it, and they had an obligation to do better by you, and they didn't. I expect that of MSLSD. I don't expect that of fake news. I mean Fox News. I mean faux news, the controlled opposition. I don't expect that of Communist News Network. Right? They're supposed to be, they hold themselves up as the one that you can trust. The truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, you can't trust anything you hear from anyone. Don't even take what I say as factual. Do your own due diligence. Do your own homework. Make sure that you formulate your own opinion based on all of the available information, not just what I say. Don't parrot my opinion. I don't parrot anyone else's. I formulate my own. I read probably a couple of 100 pages a day to make sure that I'm not just grabbing and grasping at someone else's opinion and then parroting it off like a little parrot on my shoulder. If that's what you're going to do, then you're going to fall into a trap as well. All right, let's listen to the actual unedited version of Cliven Bundy. And I apologize for the quality of this, but it's pretty rough. Just stick with me for a second here.
And so what I'm testifying to you, I was in the Watts riot. I seen the beginning fire, and I seen that last fire. What I seen is civil disturbance. People are not happy. People are thinking they don't have their freedoms and don't have these things, and they didn't have them. We've progressed quite a bit from that day until now, and we sure don't want to go back.
Now you'll notice here he's talking about the Watts riots, and he's saying essentially that he witnessed the Watts riots, and that the people involved in the Watts riots were unhappy and upset about being disenfranchised from society, not just one issue or another, in general. And his point was that they don't look happy. They're very unhappy about everything, and we don't want to go back to what it was before.
We sure don't want these colored people to have to go back to that point. We sure don't want these Mexican people to go back to that point. And
what he said there was we don't want the colored people to go back to that point, and we don't want the Mexican people to go back to that point. He's talking about pre-Watts, and his general context here is that government has created a level of dependency that has enslaved the black population in the country and the Hispanic population in the country. And I'll grant you, he's not articulate enough to use the right words, the PC word. He's not articulate enough to say African American. I'm not going to use that word either. It's too PC. You're black. Big deal. I'm white. I don't call myself a German Irish American.
We can make a difference right now by taking care of some of these bureaucracies and do it in a peaceful way. Let me talk to you about the Mexicans. But these are just things I know about the Negro. I want to tell you one more thing I know about the Negro. When I go through Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and I would see these little government houses, and in front of that government house, the door was usually open, and the older people and the kids, and there's always at least a half a dozen people sitting on the porch. They didn't have nothing to do. They didn't have nothing for their kids to do. They didn't have nothing for their young girls to do. And because they were basically on government subsidy, and so now what do? They abort their young children. They put their young men in jail because they never learned how to pick cotton. And I've often wondered, are they better off as slaves picking cotton, having family life and doing things, or are they better off under government subsidy?
They just transferred it.
Yeah, they didn't get no more freedom. They got less freedom. They had less family alive, and their happiness, you can see in their faces, they weren't happy sitting on that concrete sidewalk. Down there, they were probably growing their turnips. So that's all government. That's not freedom. Now let me talk about the Spanish people. I understand that they come over here against our Constitution and cross our borders. But they're here, and they're people. And I've worked side by side a lot of them. Don't tell me they don't work, and don't tell me they don't pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And don't tell me they don't have better family structures than most of us white people. When you see those Mexican families, they're together, they're picnicking together, they're spending their time together, and I'll tell you, in my way of thinking, they're awful nice people. And we need to have those people join us and be with us, not come to our party.
Now watch the edit.
Sorry. Okay, so the edited version is what comes next, and they cut out the entire aspect of the Hispanic piece, and they cut out the first few seconds of the statement about the Watts riots and all those kinds of things. The point here is that, one, the media, the Ministry of Propaganda, the left wing, and that includes the controlled opposition of faux news, Fox News, all of them jumped on the bandwagon and utilized the edited variations or edited versions of this. And the truth is, they're all in such a hurry to be PC and politically correct and not lose, some viewership over it, that they were willing to demonize and follow along with what was taken out of context. I got to tell you, that's disingenuous to say the least, and it's unethical and immoral itself. I'm not suggesting that Cliven is not it may or may not be, and I don't know. I don't know the man personally. But I can tell you this. This isn't about Clive Bundy. This is not about him, and it's not about Eamon, his son, and it's not about his family. What it is about is one more victim out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of victims of federal government overreach. Not just individuals, but states and towns and counties. And, words and context matter. They truly do. If they don't, then I challenge you and I throw out in front of you, well, what do you say about what Hillary said when she was testifying before Congress and said, what difference does it make? It makes a lot of difference. The truth is, I can only wish that someone from the alternative media who is skilled as a PR person had gone out there and helped the Bundy family in this regard. It would have done us all a world of good. Now we have to combat a left-wing media that was just waiting for some fodder. Cliven, he's just a farmer, just a rancher. That's all he is. He's never probably spoken in public other than maybe at his church. And this is probably the biggest event in his life. Unfortunately, he lost perspective because it's not what he said. It's that he allowed the situation and the moment to become paramount, what was more important than the issues surrounding it. He allowed himself to become the story, and that's never good. Now we're going to have to fix it. And we've been set back. The problem is, and I heard David Webb speak on it last night on Hannity. Hannity, rejected it, and I unequivocally, in no way, blah, 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 blah. Greta, same thing. I didn't see O'Reilly, and I didn't see Megyn Kelly. I was at a property rights council meeting doing what I should have been doing. And what all of us should be doing, fighting back. All right, I'm going to play you one other segment here before the end of the time. This is about a 3-minute segment. This is one of the individuals who's doing security at the ranch. He and a group of individuals from Missouri, my home state, went out there. And he's a black man. And here is his take, or if you will, response. This is on Pete Santilli's show, and Pete's still out there. Pete's not the most articulate guy in the world either. His heart's in the right place. He does the right things, but he's not the most articulate guy in the world either. And, frankly, somebody from the PR community should have gone out there and helped him. Hang on a second. Listen to this.
Okay, here we go. All right, sir, here we are at Bundy Ranch. And you know what? State your first name or however you want to be called.
D.
You're D. Okay. As you know, as I just described to you, the liberal media, because the federal government lost because they couldn't use guns against the American people. So now they're using the media propaganda, and they're trying to paint Cliven Bundy based on comments he made, as well as all of us out here, as racist. Now, I didn't tell you what to say. I want you to speak very honestly to this yourself.
Right. I'm familiar with the comments that I've read from Mr. Bundy, supposedly. The way I see it, the bigger picture is much more important. This is about sovereignty. It's about the rights of the American people, and it's kind of divisive to take Mr. Bundy's words, whether he said them or not, and try and misconstrue this whole movement. From the way I see it, it's much bigger than that. And if we get hung up on something so minuscule, which is used to intentionally divide us, then we're never gonna be able to come together.
Do you believe what we're doing on behalf of, even if if African Americans were offended by any commentary? I could make comments to offend people. Do you believe that what we're doing here is for all of their benefit, whether they know it or not?
I believe it's all inclusive. Like I said, it's much bigger than one person. It's bigger than Bundy, bigger than the cattle, and that's why I'm here. I came from Missouri with a team of guys because we felt compelled to do so, and it's something that I believe in. I believe it is colorless, and I'm actually just happy to be here.
All right. There's a guy who looked at it in the right perspective. Articulate, well-spoken, clearly stated his position, and understands the issues at hand. He's not looking for the limelight. And quite frankly, that's what bothered me about Cliven Bundy's statement. It's unnecessary for him to give a daily press announcement and press statement. And frankly, that's the part that bothers me the most. One, it was taken out of context. And that's not Cliven Bundy's problem. That's the mainstream media's problem. But Cliven gave them all the ammunition they needed, and that was a problem. All right, we're going to wrap because this is the end of our segment. When we come back, we're going to talk about Hillary and how she regrets Benghazi. Right on cue for 2016's upcoming election. Isn't that amazing? You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. We'll be back in just a moment. Please ride with us this morning. I think these are important topics we're going to hit on this issue with Hillary. Then next we're going to talk about John Boehner and how he hypocritically mocks Patriots on immigration. Unbelievable. I got a personal message for John. And then fourth, Eric Holder, who must be dishonorably discharged. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Gentlemen, you are listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm the host here, and I'm happy to be with you today. TGIF. And it's been a tough week. It's been a tough week all the way around. We're going to address this issue of Hillary this morning because she came out the other day and made a statement that was tailor-made for her in typical disingenuous fashion by the, this is the principle of the softball. This is the principle of we've never seen Barack Obama have a serious interview. We've never seen Hillary Clinton have a serious interview. They've never been challenged on camera to explain or defend their positioning. And on Thursday, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was asked, if you could change the outcome of any event that occurred while you were Secretary of State, what would it be? That was teed up for her in a way that, you ever see T-ball? T-ball is, if you're not familiar, T-ball is like a little league baseball game. And in order to get these little guys and girls started properly, because they can't hit a pitch because they just don't have the hand-eye coordination and the muscle, control, they actually have this like post that stands up, and they place the ball on the post, kind of like a gigantic, tall, tee, golf tee, right? And the ball sits right on top of the post, and basically they swing the bat at a ball that's still and unmoving, which, of course, makes it easy to hit the ball. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder, John Boehner, John McCain, none of these people, none of them are challenged by the media. Every one of them is given a T-ball setup for every interview they do. And frankly, as an American, I am sick to death of it. Her answer, it would certainly be the attack on our facility in Benghazi and the loss of 2 State Department personnel and 2 CIA contractors from the terrorist attack and the terrible consequences to that. Well, you'll notice that she makes sure she uses the word terrorist attack because she needs to distance herself from Barack Hussein Obama and his love of Al-Qaeda. But more importantly, she's giving herself political cover in time for 2016. Because the truth of the matter is, as I covered for you yesterday, the real issue of Benghazi was that we were doing an arms deal, a gun-running deal for Al-Qaeda. And we knew empirically, and we knew beyond a reasonable or even a shadow of a doubt that those arms, which were being imported into Libya with the intention of going to Gaddafi, were going to be redirected to Al-Qaeda. The Pentagon knew it. Hillary Clinton knew it. Barack Obama and the White House knew it. And I gave you the proof yesterday in yesterday's episode. I looked at our YouTube views this morning. I think that one only got, 100 views. America, it was a clear and open example of treason. Right on cue to clean up her legacy for the 2016 election cycle, traitor Hillary states her regrets. The only problem is that she could have avoided the entire issue by not aiding and abetting a sworn enemy of the United States of America, by not participating in a gun-running deal with our sworn enemy, Al-Qaeda. This administration and their consistent and continued ineptitude, their bungling, their keystone coppery, and her inability to manage the slightest functions of responsibility and the power that they've been, that frankly they've usurped, is the real problem here. They can't even do treason right. The truth is, Ms. Clinton, you can't walk back treason. You can't walk back treason, Hillary. Sorry. Your apologies and your regrets are not accepted, and you are dishonorably discharged from service. Now and forevermore. We reject you. We reject your excuses. We reject your politics, your ideology. We reject your lies. We reject your treason. We, a nation, the consent of the governed, reject you. Oh, sure, there's plenty of sycophants out there who will just vote for you because you're Hillary. Because the legacy of your husband, which was laden with lies and betrayal of his own, not only of the American people, but even of you. The truth is, you don't regret anything other than being caught in your own web and your own intrigue and your own lies. We, the American people, are sick to death of the lot of you. We're tired of being played. We're tired of being pawns. Nothing is worth what you have done to this nation. Nothing. You see, Ms. Clinton, the truth of the matter is that we don't really believe that you, at any point in time, had the best interests of America at heart. And I look at you and I say, what is that worth to you? I would turn around and I would give you Patrick Henry's statement and say, what is it that Hillary wishes? What is it that Hillary would have? Is life so dear? Is power so sweet? Is wealth so much, so important to you, that you would betray your own countrymen to have it? That you would purchase it at the price of chains and slavery for us, and at the price of whatever comes for people like you on the other side? Those people who wage war against their own countrymen, those people who wage war, whether it be a war of words or a war of betrayal against their own people, there has to be a special penalty for you. The truth is, you accomplished nothing as the Secretary of State. You flew around. You had a carbon footprint the size of Alaska for all your global warming cry. You bungled the Middle Eastern peace talks, which every president before you and every Secretary of State before you has bungled. You took direction from a man you knew to be a tyrant, who you, in fact, personally detest, and who, frankly, detests you. Not over ideology, just over personality, because two big heads like that can't fit into the same room. Unfortunately, your goals are the same. The subjugation and the enslavement of America for the benefit of a chosen few, a small oligarchy of tyrants. And you make us sick. You make my stomach churn, and that of millions upon millions of other Americans. Not because you're a woman, not because you are the president's or were the president's first lady. Not because you tried to get Obamacare or your version of universal health care shoved down our throats a decade ago. Because you're an ideologue. Because you put power and money before the lives of millions upon tens of hundreds of millions of your fellow citizens. Because you're interested more in power and you're interested more in money and fame and fortune and the layers of fawning, minions around you. Your self-esteem is so shallow and so weak that you need others around you to tell you how wonderful you are, Hillary. Because your own husband has rejected you. Your grasp for power, your willingness to pay any price for some mild earthly gain is detestable. You've been playing this same conniving game for as long as you've been in the public eye. From the days of college, you've been playing this same dirty, conniving, corruption-laden game. Hillary Clinton, you have the stench of death about you. You have the stench of corruption, a rotting corpse. And you've saddled this nation with it for long enough. Do us all a favor and don't run again. We really don't need you. You and your kind, who would sit there and willingly side, aid, and abet a sworn enemy of the United States of America, who's responsible for killing 3,000 people within our own borders and literally thousands of our soldiers. You should be ashamed to show your face. You should be labeled dishonorably discharged, stripped of your assets, stripped of your wealth, stripped of your power, and exiled from our presence. You have no place here. You willfully, knowingly, maliciously assisted and participated in that most evil of things, the betrayal of your own people. How dare you? How dare you? And then use the opportunity that the fawning press gives you to smack a home run and pretend it's actually yours when the ball was very still in the first place. The money's not enough, Hill. I guess. Is that it? I mean, you and your husband have tens of millions of dollars worth of assets. You can live like kings and queens. But that's not enough to assuage your deep sense, your deep lack of self-esteem. Whatever it is that has its hooks in you, Hillary, please don't subject us to it any longer. It's like a smell that just, it's an aura about you. An aura of corruption. The corruption of death. The putrid stench. Everything that you've touched, everything that you and your husband, quite frankly, have touched has resulted in harm to this nation. We don't need your kind. We don't need what you have to offer. What you have to offer is benefits for a chosen few, paid for with the blood and the sweat and the few scraps that the vast majority of this nation can possibly pull together. You steal from the mouths of children to feed your fat cronies, their greasy, sweaty, slimy maw, gobbling down that which is never theirs in the first place. We're okay with free markets. We're okay with free enterprise. Monopolies only exist at the hands of government. And you and your cronies, you choose who will win. And you choose who will lose. Oh, I'm sure if you or your supporters hear this, that I'll pay the price. Because I know that you're vindictive. How many have died with the name Clinton on their lips? How many, Hill? You know the real numbers. Somewhere, somehow, someday, you're going to have to answer for all of that. And whether you believe in karma or you believe in a God that will demand that you stand up and repent, that price will be awful. You admit regret for the terrible consequences of Benghazi. But these were consequences that you could have easily avoided. But your mad rush to have power, your mad rush to ascend to the throne, overrode all concern, overrode all loyalty, responsibility, your honor, your dignity, your integrity. Your love of money and your love of power have turned you into something that's not even human. You are an active participant in an act of treason against your own nation. And for that, there is no forgiveness. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, if you believe that Hillary and people like Barack Obama, John Boehner, John McCain, if you believe these people actually represent you, they all have that stench of death and corruption. It hangs about them like a cloud. Everything they touch, they leave the marks. They leave that slime behind. Eric Holder, diametrically opposed to everything that this nation was ever based and founded upon. An ideologue without measure. These people, they are shameless, and they feel no remorse, no regret. They have zero sympathy and even less empathy for you. And that is the hallmark of someone who, truthfully, should not be in our presence. You're going to see an election in 2014, this coming November, and in 2016. And the goal of every American should be to fire each and every person within the oligarchy. Thousands of them. Remove them. Oh, I recognize that there are places where you only have two options, the lesser of two evils. With all due respect, continuing to choose the nicer of your murderers does not free them of your murder. You know, if I have two assailants and one promises to shoot me and the other promises to cut me with a knife, and I fear that knife more by saying I'd rather have him kill me than you kill me, is the end result any different for me? It's time for this nation to stand up. It's time for this nation to recognize that what we have is unacceptable, and that this is no longer a nation run by the consent of the governed. That what we have now is an oligarchy. That's not me saying that. That's Princeton University. That's Northwestern University. That's the best and brightest and most brilliant minds from our founders themselves. You can look at their words and apply them and label them on these people and not skip a beat. None of them are worthy. Not one. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to give you some local spots for my local advertisers here on our radio broadcasting. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. Stick with us. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You can catch me live on our website at americasvoicenow.org. If you're watching that now, give us about 2 or 3 minutes and then hit the play button and we'll come back on. Folks, if you have an opportunity to, please make sure that you assist and support our friends and our supporters. These are the folks that keep us on the air locally in the south central Missouri area. These are the guys that pay the bills, that keep us on the air and broadcasting for you. Make sure that you visit our friends at Battery Station. Kevin is a great friend of mine and a true American patriot, a man who I know has honor and integrity. And I know that in your dealings with him, that will shine through for you. You can give him a call at 417-257-7799. If you have never had an opportunity to go by his place, it's at 303 Washington Avenue. It's called Battery Station. They don't just carry batteries and flashlights and stuff like that. They carry everything for the prepper, the camper, the patriot. You want to put together a bug-out bag? There's not a single thing that you need that you cannot find there. Not a single thing. Well, there is one thing you cannot find there: toilet paper. And every bug-out bag has got to have that. At least a 3-day supply. But that's about the only thing you won't find there. 303 Washington Avenue, West Plains. 417-257-7799. BatteryStation.com. Make sure that you swing by and visit Pizza Hut. Tuesdays and Thursdays are reduced lunch days. Tuesday evening, kids under 12 eat free. It's family night. If you have an opportunity to swing by Pizza Hut anytime, please make sure that you mention to your server or to the manager that you heard about it at America's Voice Now. Make sure that you get an opportunity to swing by and see our friends over at West Plains Rental and Supply. Jeff's a good friend of mine and an American patriot. I know him. I've seen him at many, many events where I've heard him speak. He is an excellent American who has a good grasp on what's right and what's wrong. And he doesn't allow himself to be swayed by a bunch of political nonsense. You can rent anything that you need there, West Plains Rental and Supply. They're at 417-256-0017. They can arrange delivery, especially if it's something large. They've got skid loaders and backhoes and generators and compressors and drills and, anything you need. Scaffolding. They've got it all. Give Jeff a call, 417-256-0017. You won't be disappointed when you do. Make sure that you get a chance to see the law offices of Jason Henry if you've got any kind of legal challenge in your life, whether that be something like a custody battle, a simple divorce, whether you are in some kind of trouble with the law enforcement. Give him a call. You can reach him at 417-256-4100. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right. Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I am the host here. Glad to have you on board. If you're catching us live on America's Voice Now on our video or our audio feed, that's outstanding. I'm glad to have you on there. You can also listen to America's Voice Now by going to Patriot FB. You can listen to Patriot FB Radio. That's Patriot F like Foxtrot, B like Bravo. Patriot FB is a website that's similar to Facebook, but with the limitation that there's no censors on there. So you won't see your stories pulled off of there because they don't meet the liberal media's approval. You'll meet other like-minded patriots, including some great folks on there that think like you, have businesses that you can benefit from. And I would strongly encourage you to become a member of Patriot FB. Patriot FB Radio plays 24 hours a day. From 8 to 10, America's Voice Now is on there. From 10 to 11 is Resurrect the Republic with Tom Lacavara. From 11 to 2 is music. And then from 2 to 4 is J.J. McCartney, who happens to have one of the best radio shows out there, I think. J.J. is a true professional, been doing this for 30 years, right? I'm just a hack. I'm just a guy that got tired of waiting for somebody else to stand up and say something, so I started. But JJ's been doing this all of his life. He's a true professional, and boy, it shows. You won't be disappointed with his show. So the upshot is, get yourself over there to Patriot FB and join. If you have an opportunity to, you can also go to constitutionclub.ning.com. Constitution Club is another site similar to that. Get away from Facebook. Get away from Google+. Get away from all of these other programs that don't give you the opportunity to, one, not be scanned and monitored and betrayed, not have your data bought and sold on you, not have your facial recognition picture plastered all over every government database, but worse yet, you got censorship on there and tons of trolls. Go join these groups because you're going to find a lot of other individuals just like you who are members. Now, the Constitution Club has an unusual and unique feature, which is that there are about 33 or 3,400 counties in the United States of America. And as you know, counties are the most important, and county sheriffs are the most important law enforcement agent in the nation. Well, Constitution Club has a little micro website for each county in the United States. So you can find your county and then meet like-minded folks that, for all you know, live right across town and you never even knew they existed. How cool is that? Talk about community organizing, but in a good way. Join up with the folks over there at Constitution Club. You will not be disappointed. If you have an opportunity to, you can visit a couple of friends of ours who are available on those sites. One is survivalbypreparedness.com. That's survivalbypreparedness.com. They sell 100% natural, grass-fed, and grass-finished beef. What that means is that you're getting no hormones, no antibiotics, none of that nonsense. They don't feed them grain. Grass-fed and finished, started and finished. And they ship all over the country. So do not miss that opportunity to work with those folks because the truth is, if first of all, what you're eating and you're buying out of the grocery store is garbage, and number two, you're paying these outrageous prices. You may as well get at least pure beef, right? Survivalbypreparedness.com. Also, Atlas Survival Shelters. Atlas Survival Shelters, if you are concerned about where things are heading at this point, then I would strongly encourage you to look into Atlas Survival Shelters. These are not inexpensive, but these are things that are built in these 12-foot tubes. They're gigantic, and they're about 30 or 50 feet long, and you can build a fully self-contained survival shelter for your family, whether your concern is about something nuclear, whether it's whether it's a shelter from storm, whether it's a shelter from a human storm or a natural storm. Makes no difference. They've got an outstanding product. And these can be buried right on your property. You'd be amazed at what's available. It's Atlas Survival Shelters, atlassurvivalshelters.com. If you get a chance, get onto their website and then also jump onto their Facebook page and hit the like button. And just mention to them, if you get a chance to talk to Ron over there, that you heard about it at America's Voice Now. All right, this topic where we're going to talk about John Boehner and how he is hypocritically mocking patriots on immigration. You got to be kidding me. I mean, this guy is just disgusting. Really. John Boehner has the nerve, the unmitigated gall, to mock his GOP colleagues on immigration reform. The worst part is, here's what he had to say, and it really bothers me very severely that this guy, here's what he said. He theatrically mocked his fellow Republican congressman for being afraid to reform immigration policy when he spoke on Thursday before the Middletown Rotary Club in his home district of Ohio. Here's what he said. Here's the attitude. Oh, don't make me do this. Oh, this is too hard. Boehner whined before a luncheon crowd at Browns Run Country Club in Madison Township. We get elected to make choices, he said. We get elected to solve problems. And it's remarkable to me how many of my colleagues just don't want to. They'll take the path of least resistance. Wow. Well, let me say something here to you, John. First and foremost, we've asked you, we begged you to hold the rule of law above politics, to impeach Barack Insane Obama, to stop funding the three-letter government agencies that sponsor terrorism on the American people. You know, the EPA, the Bureau of Land Management, the IRS, and all these other 3- and 4-letter curse words that you call government agencies, the ones that don't have any constitutional authority to exist. We've begged you to do the one thing you can do to bring their reign to a halt. You know what that is, John? That's cut their purse strings, John. You see, you have the power of the purse. You have the wherewithal and the ability to stop them. You can stop paying their budgets. But no, you won't do that. But don't make me do this, you say. Oh, this is too hard, you say. Well, John, the truth is, we asked you to assign special prosecutors to Fast and Furious for Eric Holder, who's been charged with civil and criminal contempt of Congress, the Congress you head. But don't make me do this. Oh, this is too hard, you say. We asked you to assign a special prosecutor to Benghazi to find out why Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, the Pentagon, and most likely many of you in Congress aided and abetted a sworn enemy of the United States and chose to side with them over 3,000 Americans killed and in New York, and thousands of Americans killed on the battlefield. And instead, you helped to arm them. We asked you to put together a special prosecution team with subpoena power that could get to the bottom. And here we are years later, and nothing's been accomplished. Oh, don't make me do this, you say. Oh, this is too hard. Well, you're right, Mr. Boehner. You were elected to make choices. You did get elected to solve problems. And it is remarkable to us exactly how many of you and your colleagues just don't want to. That all of you would rather take the path of least resistance. We asked you to assign a special prosecutor to the IRS when they targeted your electorate, the same people who put you and all of your compatriots in office. But, don't make me do this, you say. Oh, this is too hard. The truth is, we also asked you to do it about the EPA. We've asked you to rein the EPA in and stop them from taking over all the water in the country, from stealing and confiscating private land from individuals. These same individuals who elected you, John, the same exact ones. But, don't make me do this, you say. Oh, this is too hard. See, John, those are the hard choices. Those are what we elected you to solve. And it's remarkable to us exactly how many of your colleagues and how often you just don't want to. It's remarkable to us that you all take the path of least resistance. We know that only 3% of Americans think immigration is important. We know that most Americans are more worried about jobs. Most Americans are worried about, can they afford this new health care? Most Americans are worried about whether or not they can pay the gas bill or the electric bill and which one they're going to have to do without this month. We've asked you to solve that. We've asked you to keep coal alive until alternative energy can actually realistically replace it. But, don't make me do this, you say. This is too hard. There's too much political pushback. I may not get elected speaker again. My friends are all going to be so disappointed in me if I actually do what the American people want. So we throw your words back at you, John. The truth of the matter is, we're just tired of your failures. We're tired of your partisanship. We're tired of you siding with the enemy. We're tired of a Congress that feels that it's okay to betray us at every turn. We're tired of a Congress who looks at us as if we're a crop to be harvested, as if we are nothing greater than a commodity to be bought, sold, and traded, to be fleeced, to be shaved, to be milked. And that when the loudest among us brays loud enough, we're culled from the herd. Frankly, John, we're sick of that, and we're sick of you. The truth is, we're tired of failure, we're tired of betrayal, and we're tired of treason. John, did you know about Benghazi? Did you, John? Did you know that Hillary and the Pentagon and the CIA and the FBI and the White House and Barack Obama and all of his executive cabinet knew that those arms were going to go to Al-Qaeda? John, did you know? And if you tell me no, it strains the limits of credulity. So tell us, John, did you know? And when you were told to keep silent, did you say, don't make me do this. This is too hard. You certainly didn't fight back for us, John. You never have. I'm not mocking you, John. I'm telling you flat out that you're a traitor and you're a scoundrel and you should be dishonorably discharged for playing politics with our people, our nation, our very lives. all while our country burns to the ground. John, we're tired of you, and we're tired of your ilk. We're tired of a bunch of people who sit up there on Capitol Hill feeling as if they are royalty. And those pesky, unwashed peasants, the only time we need to pay attention to them is basically from June to November every other year. Well, thanks, but no thanks, John. We're really not interested in that any longer. We've seen you and your kind, and we know what we get for our loyalty. We get spit on. We get bleep on. And the truth of the matter is, we're sick of it. We don't want immigration, John. What we want is a sealed, locked down border. We want a border that a gnat can't get through. We want a border that has a fence on it and no man's land in between, and then another fence. And if that's not good enough, then some more no man's land and another fence. And if that's not good enough, then we've got plenty of claymores and mines that we can fill it with. Why, John? Well, John, the truth of the matter is, they're not going to elect you when they get here. I know that you're laboring under that delusion, but it's a false delusion. It's an illusion that you have willingly accepted from your own enemy, your own ideological, political enemy. You allow them to influence you, and you would believe them over us. How tragic. The truth of the matter is, Mr. Boehner, that you've done nothing good for this nation in your reign as Speaker of the House. You're supposed to be a leader. The only thing you've done is lead our nation to destruction. You see what Barack Obama is doing. You saw the likes of what Hillary did. You see what the EPA is doing, what the IRS is doing. You see them being used as weapons against the actual citizens that own this country. Your bosses, John. Oh, I know. You don't look upon us as your boss. We get that. You've made it abundantly clear. So why is it, John, that when we've asked you to do these things, to hold the rule of law above politics, to stop this insane tirade of lawlessness, ruthlessness, against the rule of law, the Constitution, and the people themselves, you say, oh, don't make me do this. Oh, this is too hard. If it is, John, then you don't belong there. You and Eric Cantor and all the rest of your little leadership clan, you can go the way of the buffalo. You've done nothing for us, you supply nothing for us, and you betray us at every turn. We don't need people like you to claim to be leaders. You're leading this nation right off the cliff. You have the ability and the wherewithal to stop the appropriations, to shut off the flow of money, to starve the beast, the EPA beast, the IRS beast, the CIA beast, the NSA beast. You approved, you helped write the National Defense Authorization Act that allows them to collect us peons for a belligerent act and hold us in indefinite detention without hope of legal access, attorneys, courts. John, when was the last time you looked at that thing called the Constitution, which you purport to uphold and honor? Oh, don't make me do this, you say. Oh, this is too hard. Then, John, take your money and retire. Do us all a favor and just leave. Take Eric Cantor with you, by the way. We can do without him, too. The truth is, John, you've mocked your the few loyal people that are actually in the body of Congress for the last time. And you've mocked us for the last time. You have an election coming up, John. I pray that the people of Ohio say, oh, don't make me do this. Oh, this is too hard. Yes, we did. We hired you and elected you to make choices. We elected you to solve problems. And it's remarkable to us how many of your colleagues and how you personally just don't want to. Why you will take the path of least resistance. You have no right to do what you're doing to this nation. And you have no right to figure out some way to make political hay on the issue of immigration. Lock down that border, John. Seal it tight. Independently prove to us that it's locked down. Then we can safely have a discussion about what to do with those who are here. Give them 1 year, John, 1 year to all come out of the shadows and register. Then they can go to the back of the line and they can apply like everyone else. And they're here on probation until such time as their number comes up, like as if it would had they applied originally in the first place. That's the right principle, John. Not giving them some amnesty or playing some parlor trick to get them through. We're tired of that, John. And you know what? If you won't do that, we in this nation are going to have to decide whether or not we're going to take this country back. And we say, oh, please, don't make me do this. Oh, this will be too hard. Oh, this will cost too much in lives and blood. And we beg you, John, to do the right thing for the very last time. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Eric Holder, who also must be dishonorably discharged, permanently, with prejudice, removed from office. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining with us this morning. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Yeah, I know this morning's kind of intense, isn't it? Boy, these people just kill me. I know I'm taking my life in my hands when I talk to these people this way, but you know what? Somebody in America's got to say the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody's got to put these people on notice. And I mean that literally. I know I'm taking my life in my hands. They're ruthless. They're cruel. They're heartless. You know, I got to tell you, there are days when I think to myself, when I look at the characters on the stage, when I look at the Boehners and the McCains and the Eric Holders and the Hillary Clintons and the Barack Obamas, I look at these people and I say, there's no hope for a political solution here. That the best that we can do at this stage in the game is we can do what we can to slow down the path, and maybe, we can separate ourselves from the torrent of treason and betrayal that is just gushing forth like a fire hydrant snapped off at the street level. But in the end, I got to tell you, our founders, they told us, they predicted where this was going to go. And they did so clearly and without shame or fear. Why are you ashamed to admit the inevitable? Why are you fearful? Why? Truth is, we know. We can look over at the Bundy Ranch situation and know. We can look at the couple from Colorado who lost their property there for the BLM and the National Park Service open space. We can look at the Ozark Scenic National Riverway knowing that they're shutting it down and creating a wilderness area there in line with Agenda 21 and the massive conspiracy. And yes, I'm saying the word conspiracy, and I mean it in its textbook Black's Law Dictionary variant, to accomplish a globalized world run by an exclusive but very, very limited access group of oligarchs. Did you ever look at the Agenda 21 map? No? Why don't you go visit the Facebook page for Missourians against Agenda 21? I mean, it's facebook.com. Just search Missourians against Agenda 21. Go look at the map that's there. Not because it's Missourians. It shows the whole nation. And it shows you the areas that they construe have to be turned into open space, wildlands, returned back to nature. The problem is there's people living on it. Then look back at the reality of what's going on around us in our nation and tell me that that goal is not being accomplished. Tell me you can't see it. And if you can't, I will ask you to take the blinders off your eyes. And whether you wear them and keep them strapped on out of fear or ignorance makes no difference. Eric Holder, the traitor, the man who's been convicted of civil and criminal contempt of Congress for failing to release documentation showing the culpability and the guilt of this government and his department related to Fast and Furious. Well, He was expected to address a group of new police officers that were going to be graduating as cadets from the Oklahoma Police Academy. But guess what? About 100 protesters, including, by the way, I might add, a couple of individuals who were state representatives from the State House. They said, not so fast. You know what they said? U.S. Rep. James Lankford. He's running for the U.S. Senate, but I believe he's a state rep at this point. Or maybe he is federal rep. He is federal, I'm sorry. He highlighted Holder's visit as inappropriate, given that Holder has used tactics of obfuscation and redirection of blame. And then he got real about his statement, and here's what he said. I love it when a guy who's in politics speaks plainly. Now, granted, this guy's running for Senate, so everything he says is, questionable anyway. I don't know James Lankford. I don't know his history. All I know is that when politicians get into the stupid season, they'll say anything to get the job. So let's hope he's sincere. Quote, given his numerous questionable decisions, his unwillingness to cooperate with congressional investigations, and his Justice Department's opacity under this president, he would not be my first choice to stand at this administration's example of justice, leadership, and integrity. Holder's actions before Congress and his unwillingness to cooperate with our investigation of Operation Fast and Furious, the IRS targeting scandal, and numerous other Justice Department boondoggles led the U.S. House to finally hold him in contempt of Congress. For an executive agency with justice in their title, they seem remarkably reticent to seek it when it involves their boss. Bingo. See, Holder is a disgrace. He's a disgrace to the nation. He's a guy who is actually tasked with ensuring that the laws of the land are being enforced. And he picks and chooses which ones he will or will not enforce based upon his own personal ideology. Not what's best for the nation, not what's best for the country, not what's best even for the political class. What he prefers. And he was scheduled to deliver this commencement address to the Oklahoma Police Academy. 100+ people in the state were set to protest his attendance, saying that they believe he should be impeached. Guess what? He canceled his commencement address. And he didn't cancel it because of the protest, of course. He canceled it because he had a conflicting schedule. What kind of a camera pig like Eric Holder ever would allow a conflict of schedules to keep him away from the fawning press? He was expected to deliver the remarks to the graduation ceremony. And this Justice Department spokesman, because he doesn't have the courage to come out himself and say it, denied that the trip was canceled because of the possibility of a hostile reception. The Attorney General has been looking forward to addressing the cadets and regrets he cannot attend in person, said the spokesperson. He extends his heartfelt congratulations to the cadets and their families. Well, let's clarify and understand exactly what really happened here and put the BS aside for a moment, shall we? Eric Holder is a traitor. Eric Holder is a traitor to his nation, and he's a traitor to the people in this country. In fact, Eric Holder is worse than a traitor. He's a terrorist. A domestic terrorist in a uniform. He has weaponized the Department of Justice. He uses it and wields it like a double-handed sword, slashing and burning that which gives him its very life. They announced the other day that they plan to overhaul the clemency and pardon process for jailed inmates. I don't actually have a problem with that. Many of you know, those of you who listen to the program routinely, know that I served 3 years in a federal penitentiary, frankly, for a crime I didn't commit. And I've met many, many individuals who also were in there for these unbelievably long prison stretches for the most ridiculous nonsense. And it's high time that these individuals and that the crime and the punishment associated with crime actually met the real crime. The federal system, and they're talking here about federal inmates, has long had far harsher sentences than state criminal activity for the same exact crime. I would remind you, yesterday they had a thing on Fox News about a teacher. I think she was in Pennsylvania, but I don't know. The rash of these is just beyond comprehension to me, who was having sex with a student, and she got 30 days, I think it was 30 days in the county jail or 30 days of probation. Whatever it was so wholly inappropriate. She had sex with 3 students, not 1, 3. Had that been a male, he would have been serving a significant amount of time in prison. But I've got to tell you, I met people in the federal prison system who never actually even had sex, were lured in by an individual pretending to be someone to communicate with, and all they did was cross the state line to go there and meet that person, and they served 5, 7, 10 years. There was no touching. This is beyond touching. These are people who actually had sex with the victim. Am I sympathizing with child molesters? No. What I'm saying is that I met people in there who got caught with a small amount of marijuana, but because it crossed the state line, they didn't get 6 months or 18 months in jail. They got 18 years. And yes, the cocaine disparity between powder and crack cocaine was a crime against humanity. Let me be perfectly blunt. Crack cocaine and powdered cocaine are the same thing. But when you were caught with crack cocaine, they took it and said, no, it's not 1 ounce of crack. It's equal to 100 ounces of powdered cocaine. And they sentenced you based on that, on the quantity, the perceived quantity. Nothing could be less just. Nothing could be less just than a federal prison system that catches you with a couple of plants and doesn't charge you with plants that are 8 inches tall, marijuana plants we're talking about, but charges you with what the weight of those plants would be had they grown to maturity. Did you know that? So, why is it that a guy caught with 10 plants in his basement is suddenly getting 12 years in prison? He got caught with, what, a quarter pound worth of live plants. But no, under the federal system, they didn't catch him with a quarter pound of live plants. They caught him with the 3.5 pounds those plants would have produced if they'd all survived and all grown to maturity. That's how your federal system works. Did you know that under the federal system, you are convicted not based on a level of evidence and a threshold of proof that is equal to the state court? In a state court, how many times have we all heard it? You have to find, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that this person is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But in the federal system, it's not a reasonable doubt. In the federal system, what it is a preponderance of the evidence. And if you know anything at all about law, and even if you don't, all you have to do is look at the words. A preponderance of evidence means it's likely that you committed the crime. Beyond a reasonable doubt says you better not be making a mistake, Mr. and Mrs. Juror. This guy had better be guilty in your eyes. Not, he might be and he might not be. Not, well, we're really not sure. And to sentence people to prison based on a preponderance of the evidence is criminal in and of itself. The truth of the matter is, in 1980, the federal prison population, you know what it was? 20,000 people. 20,000. You know why? Because there are only a few crimes that the federal government can actually prosecute you for. And there should not be a Department of Justice. We don't need one. The only crimes that the federal government can prosecute you for are treason. And we sure as heck know they're not prosecuting anybody for that, or they'd have to throw themselves all in jail. You know what the prison population is of the federal prison system now? 220,000. And you know what the vast majority are in there for? Well, I'm going to tell you. Half of them are in for drugs. Half. Irrespective of Bill O'Reilly's analysis, every drug action and every person who sells drugs is not a violent criminal. I disagree wholeheartedly with what he says. His opinions, which I've heard expressed repeatedly in this regard, are made from a point and a position of ignorance. And I would love to go on Bill O'Reilly and challenge those thoughts, because I've been there. And I understand how that system works. He's wrong. Dead wrong. And the vast majority of people who are in that prison are not violent perpetrators. And I can tell you, because I've seen the paperwork myself, that many of those people were low-level street dealers. And the kingpins spilled on them. Because the federal way is, who can we get to snitch and rat on whom? And if you snitch and rat on enough people, you'll get your own personal get-out-of-jail-free card. So what ends up happening is, they catch the kingpin who rats on his first circle, and then they get those people to rat on the next circle, and eventually they get down and they get the people at the street. You ever hear about these things where they've got a conspiracy that involves 80 people? How do you think that happens? 80 people tied up into one conspiracy. 1 or 2 people at the top, 5 or 6 or 8 people around them, 15 people around them, 60 people around them. And it flows downhill in a hierarchical fashion. The truth of the matter is, Congress is already working on a sentencing reduction plan. But that's not fast enough for Eric and Obama. That's not fast enough for a guy who has absolutely no respect for the law. You want to know why these cadets didn't want to hear from the Attorney General, from the Department of Justice, the number one law enforcement officer in the country? Because he doesn't represent law enforcement. He represents ideology. He represents everything that's ugly. He is currently in contempt of Congress himself for civil and criminal failure to produce fast and furious documentation. He and Obama yesterday announced their new unconstitutional, unilateral, banana republic dictatorial actions to change the law related to reducing the sentences. I'm all for reducing those sentences, but it shouldn't be based upon Barack and Eric's ideology and their social justice theory. The truth of the matter is, Eric Holder is everything that is wrong with America. And he's a coward. He's a coward because he wouldn't show up there despite the fact that people were going to stand up and say, we don't want you here. He didn't even have the courage of his convictions to show up and give the speech anyway. There is no excuse for Eric Holder. There is no excuse for him to be in his position. There's no excuse for him to retain that seat of power. I've heard all the arguments that a president should be able to choose their own cabinet members. And I'm going to tell you that John Boehner and Harry Reid, those men have refused to remove him. The president only has that luxury of choice when the man or the woman being chosen for the job, one is, I get it. They're all going to pick somebody who's ideologically parallel to them. But they can't be corrupt in their foundation and still be a member, the leader of the Department of Justice. Eric Holder is a racist, bold, flat out. Has anybody forgotten the Mark Rich pardon? I'll tell you what. If this is the blind justice we get under the new republic, and that's with a K, of the democracy of the United States of America, you can have it. This isn't the rule of law. This is the rule of men. Swaying and twisting in the wind like a weak sapling, not standing rigidly and firm. This is ideology at its most corrupt. And Eric Holder is the poster child, the symbology, to use the administration's screwy grammar, of all that's wrong with the justice system in this country. I'm all for getting those people out of prison. In fact, frankly, the vast majority of them probably don't even belong there in the first place. But that does not excuse Eric's and Obama's treasonous, traitorous action. A violation of the Constitution cannot be forgiven, ladies and gentlemen. Not by Hillary, not by Barack, not by Boehner, not by Holder, not by Dirty Harry, not by Valerie Jarrett, not by the 9 black-robed conflict of interest masters on the Supreme Court. And until this country comes to the conclusion that we're going to do the right thing by we the people who created this government to serve at the what? Consent of the governed, then this country will never be able to restore itself. And we will come to a terrible, terrible end. Eric, I'm not surprised you wouldn't show up. The truth is, I'm glad you didn't. They deserve better than you. Folks, you've been listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm the host here every day. Please visit our website at americasvoicenow.org. If you can support us in any way financially, we are, I don't normally throw the money thing out there, but lately it's just gotten ridiculous. If there's any way that you can assist us, please do so. You can go to our website and you can visit there and use a PayPal link there, or you can mail a payment to us if you can. It's America's Voice Now, P.O. Box 1195, West Plains, Missouri 65775. You can email me directly and communicate with me directly at mike@americasvoicenow.org. God bless. Have a great day. We'll see you Monday.